What is going on out there, peeps? All right, I did this video on the NESARA GESARA. God, it was over a year ago, and you can hear me in here making some predictions about what was going to happen. But this was a feeling that I had when I was watching Trump make his move with the Federal Reserve and with the Treasury at the time. I thought this was the direction he was going into.
When we heard that the Federal Reserve had merged in with the Treasury, I thought that was a very interesting move. But I also thought that I knew what it was that Trump was trying to do. He was trying to, in my opinion, squeeze China out of all the holdings that they had here in the United States by manipulating the market, and that he would use an outsourced company like Blackstone to buy up all the different corporate debt and any other treasury debt, debt bonds, anything like that, so that the debt actually came back into the United States. The truth of the matter is China owns a huge part of the United States. This isn't okay. They also own major shares in a lot of our biggest companies. This is a national security risk. So once I seen this move happen, it was just, in my opinion, and I stressed this a couple months ago, that I felt like Trump was using Blackstone. He would buy up everything and anything that had to do with the United States, their corporations, in order to squeeze China out of here. That was just my idea. So he did this through what was known as the Exchange Rate Stability Fund. The Federal Reserve can't technically own assets, nor can the Treasury. That's where Blackstone came in. Blackstone right now, it holds the most assets in the world. It is the most valuable company that's out there. I told you it was my opinion that the United States was going to squeeze China out of here. One way or another, he was going to find a way. He started buying up and using the Treasury to push out unbelievable amounts of dollars to start buying out corporate debt. And there was a reason for it.
It actually started to work under Trump's administration. We saw them backing out of a lot of assets. With the trade war going on, it was really affecting China's economy. I mean, they're still on the verge of going bankrupt, but they do own a ton of our farmland. And so I thought with what Trump was doing, he was squeezing them out. That was my opinion on what was going on at the time.
As time goes on, I continue to see this happening more and more. Before we get into that, a quick reminder, we have Pimpy's Investment Chat. It's the same name as the YouTube channel. In here we talk about investment opportunities, gold, silver, cryptocurrencies, or other investment opportunities. I'm also on Twitter, all right, you guys? So come join me over there. The link to my Twitter and the 2 Facebook groups will be in the description. I really think that Trump's playing a very interesting game. We see right now a huge movement to try to really force the United States into a Marxist communist nation. We also see what's out there called the Great Reset from the World Economic Forum, trying to push everybody, and they claim it to be a reset of capitalist ideas, but it's not. Everything about them is socialism, which leads to communism. Joe Biden's particular campaign slogan comes directly from the Great Reset, which is a no-no, and half his policies come from the Great Reset, which is, again, a socialist movement. This is why China is behind this. If we can move into a socialist and then communist country, they'd be more than happy to be our friends. You can already see the Democrats are talking about us moving into a social score like China has. In other words, if you speak up against your government, your score is lowered. That means you can't travel, you can't have vacations, you can't own homes based on your social score. Do you really want the government to have that kind of control over us? There's only one thing standing in our way of us being that type of nation, or us being a free constitutional republic, and that is Donald Trump. Anyways, I continue to look for articles that support what I'm trying to say, and sure enough, we do, from Zero Hedge. Zero Hedge shows us something that's very interesting. China to gradually sell 20% of the U.S. Treasury holdings, may dump it all in case of military conflict. So China has the ability to crash our dollar. They really do. They own most of our debt. Therefore, they own most of us. What's going on over here in the United States? I can't help but think this is what Trump wants. He wants to squeeze them out, period. We're seeing that China is now moving out of our real estate market. They think something's going to happen. They're selling off properties. We see them selling off our treasury holdings. We see them selling off our corporate debt. There's a bigger agenda happening. I really do think that Trump sees China as a real national security threat. And the fact that we have insurrectionists, including our own politicians, and entertainment and sporting venues all selling out to China. Case in point, look at LeBron James, sticking up for China but takes the knee against our national anthem and our flag. He's a sellout. We're seeing movies willing to censor what they're put in their movies in order to appease China. China has taken over a lot of ports in different countries around the world. They are truly a global threat. So let's go over this article, because this to me is good news. The more they do this, the better. The more we're able to buy up the debt so that we control it, and the sooner then we can move into the gold standard. This would secure our country. Think about this. The more that China owns in any corporation here in the United States, the more power they have. Let's pretend like they own the vast majority of the shares in Google. Since they are the majority shareholder, they have the right to and receive any data that's collected by Google. This is bad. Gmail as well. Any internet, Yahoo, anything like that. If they control it, they can demand access to stuff that they shouldn't have access to, which includes emails, text, pictures, phone numbers. And why is that a big deal? Well, because if our politicians are less than honorable, and the Chinese people can figure that out, and they have evidence that shows that they're really into some nefarious things, they can blackmail our politicians and therefore control our system. That's not what we want. Ever since the early stages of the U.S.-China trade tech virus Cold War 4 years ago, there were frequent rumors, which eventually gave way to the increasingly legitimate chatter that China was looking to go full nuclear option by selling some or all of the $1 trillion of U.S. Treasury securities, which incidentally has not been too far off the mark. As the charts below show, after peaking in 2013, Chinese holding of U.S. debt has been steadily declining, and not steadily in the aftermath of the Chinese devaluation, and are currently near the lowest levels in 8 years. They own our debt. We are obligated to them. Here's the thing. I spoke about this in another video. China may own about $1 trillion of our debt, but there is out there the Chinese bonds that they never paid. They made some lame excuse moving into the current situation when we try to rebuild them with their Chinese bonds, which equals to about $1.5 trillion in debt.
So here is what actually happened, because I didn't get into enough detail in the video. When China became a communist party, they just made an announcement that any debt that they owed to other countries had nothing to do with them. Therefore, they were not honoring it. They wouldn't pay the debt, is what it came down to. That's where you see those Chinese bonds. They're out there. They're real. Now, as far as anybody being able to make money, because this was a big misunderstanding the last time I did this video, as far as buying the bonds are concerned and getting them redeemed, it's most likely not going to happen. Just because the Communist Party already said they're not going to do it. Where I was going with this is China owns $1 trillion of our treasury bonds. So they owed us $1.6 trillion in the bonds that we had with them. So if they wanted to try to redeem them, what I thought for sure Trump would say is, yeah, look, you didn't pay us ours, we're not paying you yours. And you still owe us somewhere between $400 and $600 million after that wash. So that's the direction I thought for sure they were going in if they wanted to try to dump these bonds.
China can go ahead and dump on the market the $1 trillion in debt. Trump can then turn around and demand payment on the bonds because they technically owe this. Legally owe this. And he could demand a $1.5 trillion. which washes. So $1 trillion is being washed away, which puts China back in obligation. Now, if China defaults on this obligation, it won't look good with them on the international community. So that is there. I'm not worried about China's threat to dump this debt on us, because Trump would turn around and dump the same debt back on them, which is equivalent to more than what we owe them. He would just say, fine, it's a wash, no big deal. There's no default, no nothing. Doesn't affect our credit rating. But that means there's another $500 billion that China owes us. Do you see where I'm going with this? What Trump's trying to do is push China out of the United States altogether. They literally are in all aspects of our country. This is not good. So I spoke about this before, and people thought I was full of it when I said that Trump's actually almost in the same position that Ronald Reagan was in when he ended communism in the USSR and they collapsed. Trump is a shrewd businessman. And I'm sure already he's planned everything out about what he needs to do. And he could actually end communism in China. I know many of you think that's crazy. It's not.
The interesting thing about that theory that I had is, people thought, oh, that's crazy. It's not the same situation. Yeah, well, what I was trying to say was this. The people in China are starting to rebel. And so there would have been a good opportunity for Trump to really hurt China. They're already hurting financially in the first place. He could essentially end communism, was the thought. Now, the crazy thing is, they're starting to do this wealth distribution thing. They are taking money from billionaires over there right now and giving it down to the lower and middle class people, just giving them money. And the rich people are not happy about this. So I would not be surprised if you didn't see civil war break out there soon. Just because the rich people are tired of the Communist Party doing those types of things to them. Now, I don't know what kind of power these rich people have over the Communist Party, but I'm pretty sure they could raise up a pretty good stink. We'll see.
This is why it's very interesting that the Democrats and entertainers and sports athletes are all sticking up for China over Trump in our country. This is a bad scenario. They use these people as influencers. Basically, they sold out. LeBron James has a $1 billion contract with China. Nike. They're number one in the market. So ask yourself why it is that LeBron James wants to stick up for the rights of blacks here because they've been oppressed, but doesn't care about the fact that there's people being oppressed in China, never speaks out against them. That's because he sold out. He's a sellout. People are waking up to this. This is why you see the ratings for the NBA and other sports are very, very low. This is why you see award shows and movie sales are very, very low. We know they all sold out to China, and we're not putting up with that anymore. But this move by Trump is bold. That's why we got to hope that he's not the boogeyman. He's a legit deal. Because what he's doing with Blackstone, that corporation, whoo, man, if he is the boogeyman, we are screwed. Because technically, the government through Blackstone would own our properties, our corporate debt, the corporations. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is really, really bad.
Good Lord, when I made that statement a year ago, all hell broke loose. People in the comments, oh, you're turning on Trump. I never said that. What I said was, if he is the boogeyman, then what he was doing would definitely set up the Great Reset, is what I was trying to say. But I got the clones and the 17 miles of gold and all that other crap. So, yeah, you guys, I didn't say Trump was the boogeyman. I said if he was the boogeyman.
If he's the boogeyman.
Exactly.
If he is who we think he is, then we will all hope and pray that Trump does what's necessary to erase all the debt that's out there, which is moving us into the whole NESARA GESARA movement, whether it's officially called that or not. In any case, while Beijing has gradually reduced in its treasury holdings, which is good, we don't want him to hold it, it has never shocked the market with a major liquidation. And yet, this ultimate threat has now found its way into China's premier state-run English language news source, Global Times. Good luck, China. Go ahead and pull the trigger on that. And I guarantee Trump will pull the trigger on these bonds. You owe us. Not only that, the bonds guarantee that the payment is in gold. That's what they promised us. So don't think that Trump won't pull the trigger on this, because he will. He's calling your bluff. As we buy our debt back from you, they own less and less of America. We need this to happen. They're in our institutions. They're in our colleges. They are teaching children and college students to hate America. Black Lives Matter is a Marxist movement. Don't think that China is not happy about this, because they are. And while no official policy, the fact that GT on Thursday has made U.S. Treasury dump front page news citing that state-linked experts is cause for concern. It certainly suggests that the Fed may soon have to step in and with another massive QE to purchase whatever China has to sell. True, and they should buy it or swap the debt for debt. Because if that's the case, then we're way ahead of the ballgame. The Beijing-backed publication writes that China may gradually reduce its holding U.S. Treasury bonds to about $800 billion from the current level, more than $1 trillion, as the ballooning U.S. federal deficit increases default risk and the Trump administration continues to blistering attack on China. So people are going, well, Trump's not tough enough on China. He likes the leaders. That doesn't keep him from doing what he does, which is know that they're a threat, and he has created onslaught against them. That's why China has supported Biden, who Biden got $1.5 billion from them when he was vice president. The facts are familiar to anyone who has been following this Sino-U.S. trade and made U.S. descent into the fiscal hell, which, as we noted earlier in the week, resulted in a U.S. budget deficit hitting a record $3.3 trillion and a record 107 debt to GDP in just 2 to 3 years, as the Global Times reviews. In the first 6 months of this year alone, the world's second largest holder of U.S. debt dumped more than $106 billion worth of U.S. treasuries analyzed, and is looking to continue trimming its holdings systematically, the publication states. It may sound bad, but it's not. We need to get China the hell out of here. A key reason states for the liquidation is that China is anxious over risk associated with surging debt levels. Of course they are. This is where Blackstone comes in. So it goes on to talk about this is exactly what we want. We want China to part with the U.S. debt. As it happens, the Treasury or the Federal Reserve seems to be buying it up, actually Blackstone. Blackstone holds the most U.S. assets in the world at the current moment. If Trump is not the boogeyman, we want that to continue to happen.
Blackstone also is the largest holder in foreign assets as well.
Will and should be returned to the American people. We're now in September. Remember, Trump put a halt on corporations buying back their stock. The money that they borrowed had to go to pay for employees and their salaries, and not to buy back stock. What we're going to see is a huge buyback. You're going to hear the Democrats talk about Trump is helping his rich friends and corporations. Yeah, it's going to look that way, but it's not. Trump is saving the biggest companies in our nation so that when he needs to, and we lift this RONA quarantine and people are ready to go back to work, their jobs are still there. They have been saved. Yes, of course, the rich benefit as well, but more importantly, the American people have something to go back to. So when I see these articles, I'm going to get really excited. This is exactly part of the plan that I was talking about. We just have to be on the right side of this, which is holding precious metals. Anyways, this is part doing away with the debt. But before we could do away with the debt, we have to first possess the debt. Again, I'm really nervous because if Trump is the boogeyman, we are so screwed, man. We are so screwed. Because the actions that he took can actually really super enslave us if he's the boogeyman. That means the holder of the lands, our debts, corporate debt are all controlled by the government, which is not good. And right now, what we're trying to do is squeeze out China in this situation. We are close to election time. We're now in the first week of September. If everything is going according to plan, we should see some movements getting ready to happen that will benefit the American people very shortly. So hang tight. All right, you guys, that's it. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, helps out the channel, and I surely do appreciate it. And I'll catch you later.